both to the east and west. These will be more of a cedar arbor type area that will be held up by some stone pillars. You'll notice that a lot of the materials being proposed for these improvements are going to be compatible with existing materials already on site with the building there, specifically in some of the stone features, as the front facade of the existing building has that along the bottom portions at the entry. A trash enclosure is also to be provided at the southeast corner of the site. Again, notice the stone columns to be compatible with the other features, and the cedar slat fence is something that you can expect to see as well along that privacy fenced area, the south property that I mentioned previously before. There are currently 7 parking spaces along the east side of the property. The applicant also intends to add an additional 12 spaces. You'll note in our recommendation as a condition of approval that the applicant provide some revisions to the calculations given. Based on our parking requirements are based on the floor service area, so that would actually include more than just the building itself. It would also include the outdoor display area. So we've asked that those revisions be made. They meet the criteria, so they'll have, and actually exceed the criteria, they'll have the amount of parking spaces that are required for this site. There's a couple of other improvements that the applicant intends to make that I want to bring to your attention. First and foremost, currently there is an existing drive to serve a drive-through on the past use to the west of the site it would be, and the applicant intends to close that off to provide sidewalk and curb so that it can carry the consistent appearance and appeal to pedestrian traffic and so forth. In order to do that, it's going to be a little bit more of a lengthy process. He actually has to go through the permitting process through the Kansas Department of Transportation, KDOT, because it is their right-of-way. This is something that is encouraged and will be done. We expect that that will happen within a certain time period, and would also ask that the applicant provide us with some correspondence to show due diligence that that is being carried forth as has been communicated to staff. This will also be important so we don't provide any type of confusion to vehicular traffic, seeing that the curb cut, they may intend to turn in there and that might create some problems. So there are some other potential safety hazards. I'm sure all of us walking along sidewalks realize where it kind of dips down. You know, tripping hazards may seem trivial, but definitely are something to consider. Wanted to bring to your attention the proposed fence, as I had mentioned, surrounding the outdoor display area. This is something typical of a split rail fence, a cedar split rail fence that you might see. I draw your attention to the architectural character of the downtown to kind of say that a fence of this nature might seem a little bit out of place in the downtown area. Staff would recommend as a condition of approval that a different type of material or a different type of appearance and fence be provided to maintain that identity in the downtown area. It will also provide for a permanent fence. We're concerned that a temporary fence may become dislodged and go into the place of public right-of-way, thereby creating even more of a hazard, so that somehow be permanently secured as well as consideration for the materials. the outdoor display area shown, this will be important to, the fence component will also be important to creating that space, creating the environment so that people are aware of the distinction between the private and public spaces. We feel that the applicant has provided the necessary means to do so, not only for security of the site, but also, again, to create just kind of an overall feel and compatibility with the entire site itself. Looking at some of the elevations, just briefly, you'll notice this is the north elevation, so looking at the site, if you were standing along Highway 56, to the right, that will be where the fence will be located in the display area for the sale of goods. I totally failed to mention that the intent of this site will be to sell seasonal goods and produce such as pumpkins, Christmas trees, fruits, vegetables, something that's going to be provided to the community as a sort of alternative for a healthy foods, and also some gardening items as well, as the applicant has stated to us. At the east elevation, I want to draw your attention to a couple of things. There will be some additional lighting provided. There's not a lot currently on site. There's a couple existing lights on the building itself, and then there's a light pole located in the alleyway to the south. The applicant has provided some additional lighting so that the entire site may be lit to provide for safety and a number of other things. You will notice that it's a proposed up-down lighting. Staff would recommend that as a condition of approval, the lighting be downward directional only in nature. That will help to shield some of the glare from spilling over into potentially the street, as well as some of the residences to the south and other places. You'll also notice a sign. This is referred to as a blaze sign. It's something very typical that you will see in the downtown areas. It's to promote more of a pedestrian feel as people are out. They see that as they're walking. We're very comfortable with the applicant's proposal. That as well will be reviewed at another time for compliance with the zoning ordinance, for height and dimension and a number of other things. But we wanted to draw your attention to that, and that is the only sign being proposed at this time. The south elevation, looking from the rear alleyway, there's not a lot of improvements that will be happening from this viewpoint. There will be fencing on the left-hand side, as well as that is the display area. But the right-hand side, as far as we understand, will be left open. And that's where a lot of the parking will occur off to that side. The west elevation, the standards ask that we provide screening for mechanical units, any existing units that can be viewed from public right-of-way. Again, that's an aesthetic appeal to the downtown area. In general, you really can't see some of these units. We've asked that outside of providing actual screening by way of architectural features, landscaping, and so forth, that instead the applicant just be asked to paint the units to match the building so they kind of blend in and meet the intent of that standard. So there was a lot of things in there that we kind of provide as recommendation for approval, as a condition for approval. Just to summarize, the applicant is currently in the process of obtaining permits from KDOT, the Kansas Department of Transportation. We would ask that a timeline be established so that within 1 year of site plan approval, that those are received and approved, and that the installation is completed within 18 months, so a year and a half. The proposed temporary split rail fence be instead a permanent alternative that would be more compatible with the downtown historic architectural character. Mechanical units be painted to match the color of the building to provide that screening. Exterior lighting to be downward directional only. They will provide